Want to start your own podcast? I did, but had no idea where to begin. I thought I needed a computer, which I'm no expert at, and spent hundreds on equipment. Turns out all I needed was Anchor. I can use my PC, my tablet, or my phone to record an episode. No need to buy interfaces or recorders, and it's free. Anchor takes all the guesswork out and does everything for you. You can even upload your live stream, and Anchor will convert it to audio. No fancy apps or programs needed. Did I mention it was free? So learn from my mistakes, save money, and join Anchor.
Hey, this is Arthur Hancock from Wolfpen Branch, and you're listening to Undergroundopolis.
Thank you so much. If you don't know, we are MojoThunder, and we are so happy to be here at Masters Musicians Fest with you. Make some noise out there. Right on, baby.
All right, tell us who you are and where you're from.
Hey man, this is Bryson Willoughby, guitarist of MojoThunder, and I'm originally from Pulaski County, but I am in Lexington, Kentucky as of right now.
Are you? I just literally got back from Lexington. I wish I'd have known that. I was at the Green Lantern last night.
Oh really? Who was at the Lantern?
Yeah. MP Presley, 500 Miles to Memphis, and Josh Nolan.
Nice.
And it was
NP. I saw a video from NP's show last night, and they done a Billy Joel cover, I believe.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Rocked it out too, man.
Yeah, dude, that guy. NP's the man. We like him a lot.
Oh yeah. So, how did MojoThunder come together?
So a long story short here.
No, make
Zach,
it
long. Well, it's a little more boring than most of tales of like gratuitous like crazy stuff from rock bands. But no, our stuff would come together like fairly easily. I met Zach through a Craigslist ad that I had out, and me and him started playing together. And then a mutual friend of ours introduced Andrew to us because he was looking for a band. Andrew's the bass player. And then we spent probably, let's say 2 years, or maybe a little shorter, maybe a little longer, but, just kind of like, trying to sort of round out the lineup. And we had a guy who was singing with us at the time, but, we ended up, going separate ways with him and found Sean, through a post that someone had shared on Facebook. So I don't know if you're familiar with who Zach Day is or not, but he's from McQuarrie County, which is kind of like Pulaski County. He's like redneck neighbor, and he was like on The Voice last year.
Wow.
I think he's an incredible singer, and so we were Zach Shootman, our drummer, originally was saying, hey, maybe we should get this guy Zach Day, and he just sings way, way too pretty for us. So I was like, that guy's way too talented. But then when we saw the video that Zach Day had shared with Sean, then we were like, oh, that guy's a good fit. So anyways, Sean was running a blues trio at the time, and we went and saw him perform, and really liked his style and everything he was doing. So we invited him to jam with us, and then we've been going strong ever since, which I think, if I'm dating this correctly, we've been together 3 years now with the classic lineup, if you will.
Yeah. As Bryson Willoughby, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Correct? Yep, that's me.
I'm always scared to say someone's name out of fear of mispronouncing it.
Hey, Willoughby's a long one, so.
As Bryson Willoughby, who could you narrow down an influence or something like you saw on stage or on TV or anything? You say, I want to be that guy. Who would that influence be? And it doesn't have to just be one, but.
Sure. Well, so there's it's changed so much, throughout the years. It's kind of like a summation of every guitar player I've ever liked. But the first guy that ever really turned me on to wanting to take a serious look at it was Ace Frehley from Kiss. I thought those dudes were about the coolest guys ever. So that was it. And then I think kind of the Holy Trinity of that time when I was 12 was Joe Perry from Aerosmith and Angus Young at AC/DC, and those three were really kind of my introduction to the rock and roll world.
How old are you?
I'm 31.
Yeah,
it's totally fine.
I thought you was a lot younger than that. You're a lot younger than me still, but.
No, sorry. I keep getting older every year. I haven't quite figured out
how to stop that.
Go back.
But how would you describe MojoThunder's music?
I just describe us as a rock and roll band, man. We're, we kind of try and play from the same family as bands like Humble Pie, The Faces, Rolling Stones, and Led Zeppelin, and the kind of that whole group of musicians really kind of gave us a good direction on what a band was supposed to sound like if you're going to go the rock and roll route. And we have a lot of modern influences as well. There's My Morning Jacket out of Louisville, and then Kings of Leon and The Strokes, and the list goes on and on and on. But yeah, those are I would say I generally say rock and roll band, and then if I get pressed on it further, we're not big fans of 80s metal rock music. That's not really our bag. So we're more of the 70s kind of style of.
Are you the main writer, or do you guys all collaborate together?
We all collaborate together. As far as the writing goes, generally speaking, someone will kind of come up with music first, just a loose structure. Say I'll have a riff and what I would think would be a chorus and the verses, and maybe a bridge idea, and then once we get everybody in the room together, then we start seeing how realistic those are to kind of the standard we have of songwriting. So in other words, I'll bring something in, or Sean will bring something in, or Andrew will bring something in, and then we got Zach, who's our drummer, who's really good at saying, well, maybe we should put this here or that there. And so it's a very everyone's very involved in what we're doing.
Right on. Right. I love collaborating with people, man. If I write songs myself, I'm probably going to fail. I do. I have songs I do write, but it's my best ones are always been some kind of collaboration with somebody.
Definitely, yeah. If you're in a room full of people you trust musically, then I think you're always better with 4 minds or however many's in your band than just the one. I think vision wise that helps out so much more, because if you just have one person's personality in something, it's inevitably not going to be as fun as having the 4. So
right. No, I think But what I've heard, what I've gotten to hear of you and seeing you guys live, is you're really great. And, I'm not
thank you,
just,
man.
I don't just go around. I go around handing out compliments, but I really mean it. You guys that was a fun time.
I appreciate that, man.
That place, that thing in Somerset, the Master Musicians Festival, which I'm doing a whole series of all the artists that have at least written me back, and I've got 2 or 3 down, and you'll be part of that series.
Oh, awesome. Well, good. Glad to be part of that.
Yeah. How'd you land that gig?
Gosh, I think the director of Master Musicians Festival she got a hold of us, and this was pre-COVID. I don't know if you're familiar with the little pandemic that was going on, that little bump in the road everyone had.
That's what started this.
Oh well, yeah. Well, side note to Master Musicians Festival, I'm really, really applauding like anyone business-wise who learned how to pivot during that whole thing, because obviously you get things thrown at you that you didn't expect, and I think a lot of people got really creative with how to stay safe and do a thing without collapsing. But so kudos to you for doing that, and then back to Master Musicians Festival. Yeah, we got booked by the director there, and then we got rebooked, as part of it coming back, and we ended up doing their social distance fest, which was sort of like an online thing for where Master Musicians Festival wasn't going on. So we done that early on.
I didn't realize that's the same company.
Yeah, and that may have been like a collaboration of sorts as well. So I don't know, like if it was just MMF people, or who else was exactly involved with that. It's been a little bit ago, but they were at least in some part involved. And I remember we got asked to do that because we were on Master Musicians Festival's lineup.
So you got a favorite show story?
Of my own band or going to a show?
Of your favorite band show story. Let's start with that.
Okay, so my own, I don't know, as far as like our group goes, I don't know if I would exactly have a favorite, but there's a few shows that come to mind. At Master Musicians Festival this year, that was like a long time coming for us. That's a festival I grew up going to as a kid, so that was really, really nice to turn around and be on stage rather than in the crowd. So that one definitely was like one of my more favorite shows. And then honestly, the hometown shows are normally like just like the most awesome experience, as far as like, 'cause a lot of that stuff sort of runs together, but Lexington's always like historically treated us well. And what I'm hoping my favorite show is going to be is something coming up. We're doing a 4-run show where we're playing an original MojoThunder set, and then we're following it up with playing Pronounced by Leonard Skinner in its entirety.
Oh, hell yeah.
yeah, man. So that's, I'm hoping as far as like best show stories, we'll get a little Skinner to action in, and those will be what I would tell you in the future.
All right. Here's the counter question, and one of my favorites. Do you have a worst show story that you can share with us?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So before we ever actually started playing as MojoThunder with Sean, like historically, what our band does is before we like play, like kind of like start like a tour or something like that, we'll book a show under a different name and just kind of go play the set just to see sort of like how it works with crowds. So there was like one particular night, Sean was like running his blues trio, and he had Andrew playing bass with him that night. So, half of the band's, already on stage, different drummer there. And Zach and I went up to go see him, and we were talking on one of their earlier breaks. And we're like, hey man, get us up for a few songs, and like, we'll kind of try some of these out and, like see if like, we get a reaction or not. And so this is like one of those 4-hour bar gigs, and Sean and Andrew, doing fine, like hanging out. And where Zach and I were in the crowd, we had access to a little bit more alcohol than maybe Sean or Andrew did playing on stage. So by the end of the night, Zach and I it was probably more of a feat for us just to be walking around, let alone putting instruments in our hands. So, I think some of the first times we ever played, like, gosh, I can't even remember the songs, but it's like, maybe Got Me Like, or some of those like really, really early stuff that we released. But like, Zach started off on this really, really slow tempo, and then I came in, I think maybe in a wrong key. I mean, it was just a disaster of a performance, but it was kind of like a little bit of a wake up call too, like, oh shoot, like, we've, got like a real show coming up, so we're going to have to, get it together. But, to this day, Sean and Andrew, give us hell about that particular performance. And since then, I can't really think of any like disastrous shows, but as far as like, touring stories go, we've played to the bartender and the door guy story, more than once. So that's always a very interesting thing and then, during that time too, like we all wore bell bottoms and like, very, very like, 70s clothing. So you can imagine, how much of an asshole you feel like when you're on stage in all this garb and there's two people in the room.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've been there. We all play for the bartender at the door sometime.
Yeah.
You're paying your dues,
Absolutely.
Which is your favorite song to play as far as MojoThunder goes?
Oh, there's a few. I think that as far as doing it like it is on the album, a Bullet from him, the latest album we just released, is I guess by far my favorite guitar solo that I've ever put together. And the ending of that song is kind of like a jam-esque, just kind of goes into some good like straightforward rock and roll. And that one's like a great song for me to play live. I feel like if I'm ever having a bad show, like by the time we get to that song, like I'm kind of locked in to where I need to be. Like that kind of puts me in that good space. And from the old songs, we've started kind of like incorporating like sort of these like longer jams into them. So like an older song we do called Fine. We now have kind of like this like Allman Brothers-esque Grateful Dead thing that we do that, can last anywhere from like a minute to 6 minutes, depending on kind of how we're feeling it. And so that's really fun to sort of like breathe life into some of those old songs that like, it just kind of gives them like a little more like jazz and gets us sort of excited to play them again. Jack's Act is one that I had loosely put together, and we kind of like, kind of all made the structure on it. But, a lot of people have told us that, oh man, this kind of like seems like a throwback to AC/DC. Hope that, doesn't bother, you all with us saying that, and I always go, no, not at all, because that's exactly what we were going for. I said, we got as close to an AC/DC song as we could without breaking anything like legally with it.
Right.
So, but that's what that was. Like, it just came out of like us all loving Power Age. Like, that's like everyone's favorite AC/DC album in the band. And I've just kind of been like, playing around with some Angus stuff, and I was like, I'm pretty sure like this is like we're safe to kind of go on this little riff. And then as far as the lyrics go, I do a little bit of writing on the side. So like all the songs that I like don't finish, but maybe like the lyrics to a little bit, I'll send them over to Sean to see if they can help him or not. So me and him both had lyrics on that. So, but I mean, it's 90% Sean and 10% of stuff I contributed. But that's basically about the full story of it. The only other interesting thing about it is I like that song doesn't have a guitar solo. I feel like we really pulled just the necessities, kind of like an AC/DC song would. Like there's no extra to it. It just is exactly what it needs to be.
Yeah, it's okay to be simple, man. I say that for especially songwriting. You don't have to do that all the time.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with keeping it simple. Anything I've written is probably really easy to play. I promise you.
Yeah, well, those make the best songs.
Would you say you preferred the studio or the stage?
Both for different reasons. They're both like a performance in themselves. So, like live, I like the experimentation of like being able to do things that you didn't do in the studio. And in the studio, I like the experimentation of, adding layers that you may not have thought of before. So I have an equal love for both.
Have you ever had bought an album or something or a CD or something from the store and listened to it and immediately thrown it out the window?
Yeah. Yes, I definitely have.
What would that album be?
I cannot remember the exact name of it, but it was a Zac Brown album. I think it wasn't his debut album because I still like that one. I don't believe it was his second album because I think that one, they were like on tour with Dave Matthews Band, bunch of Jamie stuff, and I loved it. But there was one, I don't know what the departure in sound was, and I'm all for people switching it up and doing their thing, but that was one I put in the stereo and littered it on the side of the road on the way home.
So what's the latest album? What's it called?
The latest album is Hymns from the Electric Church.
Where all can you find it?
Anywhere. There is Bandcamp is like where you can do a digital purchase of the album. We're working on an online store right now where you can actually physically purchase a CD. And as far as streaming goes, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, whatever weird streaming service you might have outside the big three, like it's there.
Is it on Deezer? By God, it better be on Deezer, I tell you.
It might be, man.
No, it's not. I'm just playing. I always make fun of Deezer. I don't think anybody uses it.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Is there a particular producer you'd like to work with?
I tell you, a guy that I would love to work with. Are you saying like future tense, or are you saying past tense? Someone we have worked with.
Future tense. We can talk about past tense too. You got a good story? Hit it up, man.
Actually, I have a longer story about working with a past producer, but I'm going to do the right thing and not throw anybody under the bus. So, but as far as a future tense, I don't know if you're familiar with Shooter Jennings or not. He's Waylon Jennings' son, and I love Shooter Jennings. I followed him since he released Put the O Back Country, and I'm such a huge fan of him. I think he's a super creative dude. He started producing albums, and that's a guy that I would love to work with. I think that guy could really kind of push you to do some uncomfortable things that would be very rewarding to come out the other side with.
You're the first person that's brought up Shooter as far as being a producer. Well, no, Four might have. I think Four did bring Coleman Williams. I think he brought that up on a previous show.
Yeah, man, Shooter's done some amazing albums. He done an album with, outside of his own stuff that he's produced, he done an album with, I think it's The White Buffalo is the name of it, and then he's done Brandy Carlisle's album and I think American Aquarium. He's doing great. He works with Dave Cobb too, the guy that, does Rival Sons, Chris Stapleton, Sturgill Simpson. I think he's done all of Jason Isbell's albums, just a So I think those two work really well together.
What's next for you guys?
The Skinner shows, so those tribute shows, that's what's coming up first. And those are pretty local. We're doing Bowling Green, Kentucky, Lexington, Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky, and Nashville, Tennessee. So that's a thing where we do an original MojoThunder set followed by doing a Leonard Skinner set. So that's going to be super, super fun. And then, hopefully I don't get in trouble for going ahead and saying this, but since I'm by myself right now, I'm going to go ahead and do it. But, I'm set to hit the studio and start, doing some demos for, 2 upcoming projects that we're working on. We're going to do, I'm not sure which one's going to come out first, but, we're working on 2 separate albums right now. And so hopefully, obviously both those will be out in 2022, but, that's the next thing as we go into the winter. And, with, kind of all these, like new rules coming out for shows and stuff, I'm kind of, you never know what's going to happen. Obviously, like last year. So I'm thinking going into the studio during the winter and figuring everything out is going to be the next move. And then after that, we'll probably do like a full scale tour, in 2022, like in the kind of like spring, summer. We'll start really, really hitting it hard with the shows again.
Where are you going to play at in Louisville?
Zanzibar.
Okay. Were you just at the Enchanted Forest?
Yeah, we done New Albany like probably last week, 2 weeks ago, something like that.
Yeah. I live right down the street from there. Seriously, I wasn't in town that night. Of course, I was thinking, I was like, well, damn, I could have just taken the phone and done this with it right there.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you could have caught us at a much more interesting time too if you talked to us after the show.
Yeah. Right. I love catching bands right after a show. If they've had a really good show, I love getting while they're all pumped and everything. I love catching them right then. A lot of times. Anything you'd like to add before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and drop the Leonard Skinner stuff one more time.
Okay.
And so yeah, we're gonna be doing 4 shows: Louisville, Kentucky, at Zanzibar, and we're going to be doing the 5-spot in Nashville, Tennessee, Tidballs and Bowling Green, and the Borough of Lexington, Kentucky. So yeah, you can find. Oh, go ahead.
I drove by the Borough yesterday. That's where that place is. With the Goodfellas.
Oh, yeah, awesome.
With the Goodfellas Pizza. Like, well, there's the Borough. First time I'd ever seen it.
Yeah, it's an amazing venue. Have a lot of great artists coming through there, and we're kind of one of the dumb rock and roll bands they let get loud on occasion. So.
How y'all feeling out there at Masters Musicians Festival? We are MojoThunder. We came to play some rock and roll for you this evening. Is that all right with y'all? I said, is that all right with y'all? Jacket brigade and I'm feeling high, seeking salvation from things I'm not. Take another tour from the yellow long smoke, choking up my lung. My electric church gonna quench your thirst with the holy war. Masquerade, anticipating all that could come up. You don't find out what's inside and you are hungry for. Gotta find the fire deep inside you, baby. Telling you to move on. Blackbird is a hammer of justice, and your time is come. Saddle up on the child ahead, rising sun. Brothers and sisters.
This is Haley from the Weekend Run Club, and you're listening to Undergroundopolis, and this is your joke of the week. It's the best one I've got. Why was the sand wet, you guys?
Why?
Because the seaweed.
That is all our time we have for now. Thank you for listening to Undergroundopolis. Remember, we do this every Wednesday night, bringing you new and exciting artists every week. Be sure to hit up their websites and social media and stream or download their music. If you like this show, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, any streaming platform, and leave us a review as well. I'm your host, Rob Lyon, signing off.